Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment.
I, 57 male, am at the lowest point in my life, and it's all because of a decision I was forced into making. I built my business from the ground up, dedicating over 30 years of my life to turning it into a successful company. It was always my plan to leave it to my son, Ethan, 29 male, who has worked alongside me since he was a teenager. But my wife, Laura, 53 female, went behind my back and made a promise she had no right to make. Now, my son has disowned me. My stepson, Josh, 26 male, is lording over the business I spent decades building, and I feel like I've lost everything. Laura and I have been married for 20 years. When we met, she was a single mother to Josh, who was 6 at the time. I had full custody of Ethan, who was 8. We did our best to blend our families, but if I'm being honest, Ethan and Josh were never particularly close. They tolerated each other, but the bond wasn't there. Ethan was always serious, hardworking, and he naturally gravitated toward my business. By the time he was in high school, he was coming to the office after school, learning everything he could. When he graduated, he chose to work full-time with me instead of going to college, knowing that one day he would take over. Josh, on the other hand, never showed any interest. He was more carefree and had no desire to be part of the company. Laura and I encouraged him to go to college, and after some resistance, he eventually enrolled. I assumed he had his own ambitions, a separate path. Even within our household, the difference in ambition between the two boys was evident. Ethan would often be in the garage tinkering with new ideas for efficiency at the business, while Josh would be out partying or playing video games. Laura always excused Josh's behavior, saying, "He's just young. Let him enjoy life. He'll figure it out eventually." Meanwhile, Ethan was growing into the role of a businessman, someone I was proud to call my successor. Unbeknownst to me, Laura had been telling Josh that if he finished college, he would inherit my business. She used it as motivation to get him to go. She knew he had no real direction and was afraid that without a clear path, he would flounder or resent her for pushing him into higher education. So she promised him something that was never hers to give. I only found out after Josh graduated and came to me, expecting to be handed the keys to the company. I was blindsided. "Mom said you were going to let me take over," he said, beaming with excitement. I laughed, thinking he was joking, when I realized he was serious. I explained that the company had always been intended for Ethan, who has dedicated over a decade of his life to it. Josh's face twisted with fury. "That's not what Mom said," he shot back. I confronted Laura, and she broke down in tears, admitting everything. She sobbed about how she had just wanted to motivate Josh, and that she thought I would be fair and split the business between the two boys. But my business isn't something you can split down the middle. It requires leadership, experience, and commitment. Ethan had all of that. Josh had none. When Josh realized I wasn't going to hand him the company, he lost it. He started screaming that I had never truly accepted him as my son, that I had always favored Ethan, and that he would have nothing to do with us if I didn't make things right. "I'll walk away from this family forever," he said coldly. "You'll never see me again." He then turned to Laura and told her, "If you really love me, you'll keep your promise. Otherwise, you're just as bad as he is." Laura was devastated. She completely unraveled. She stopped eating, stopped sleeping, and spent days locked in our bedroom, crying non-stop. She wouldn't even get out of bed. I'd find her curled up, clutching onto pictures of Josh as a child, whispering about how she couldn't lose him. She barely spoke to me except to plead, "Please, please just do this for me. I can't lose my son." She told me Josh had always felt like an outsider in our family, that no matter how much I tried, he had always believed he was second best to Ethan because he wasn't my real son. She kept saying that if I didn't do this, Josh would be gone forever, and it would be my fault. Every day was emotional torture. Laura barely functioned. She wouldn't eat meals with me, wouldn't talk to Ethan, wouldn't even leave our room most days. She made me feel like I was about to cost my wife her only son. "Do you really want to be the reason I lose him forever?" she whispered one night, clutching my arm, "because that's what's going to happen." I held out as long as I could, but eventually I broke. I told Ethan that I had changed my mind and that the company was going to Josh instead. Ethan was livid. "You're choosing him over me?" he spat. "After everything I've done?" I tried to explain, but how do you justify throwing away a promise you've made for years? He didn't want to hear it. He packed up his things and walked out of my life. I haven't spoken to him in over a year. Josh, on the other hand, was ecstatic. He immediately started making changes he had no business making. Employees quit, morale plummeted, and within months, the company that had once thrived was struggling under his incompetence. Now he asked me to step in and help him to save the company, which I did. But I lost my son. I see pictures of him on social media, thriving in another state, and it guts me. I reach out occasionally, but he either ignores me or responds with short, cold replies. I know I broke something in him that will never be repaired. Laura got what she wanted. Josh still speaks to her, still comes to family events. But I can't look at her in the same way. She knows I resent her, and our marriage has never been the same. I don't look at her with love anymore. I look at her with regret. I want to divorce her, but then I'm left all alone. Josh, despite getting everything he wanted, still resents me. He constantly complains about how hard running a business is, and has even mentioned selling it. The very thing he fought for, the thing he turned our family upside down for, is now an inconvenience to him. Now, I sit in my office staring at the crumbling remains of what used to be my life's work, and I wonder if there's any way to fix what I've broken. I tried reaching out to Ethan once last time, sending him a heartfelt letter explaining my regret, but he never responded. I even went as far as showing up at his workplace, but he looked right through me, as if I were a stranger. So, am I the a-hole? Wow, just wow. OP was emotionally blackmailed into betraying his own son, and now he's lost him forever. OP's wife knew exactly what she was doing. She played on OP's guilt, weaponized her breakdown, and manipulated OP into giving her son something he neither earned nor deserved. And look at the outcome. OP's stepson is failing at running the business. OP's wife got her way, but still isn't happy. And OP lost everything. You're the a-hole, not for refusing to give Josh the company at first, but for letting his wife emotionally manipulate him into ruining his relationship with Ethan. I hate to say it, but OP made his bed. Now he has to lie in it. And now let's hear the community's opinion. This is brutal, OP. You let your wife and stepson guilt trip you into turning your back on your actual son, the one who worked hard, stayed loyal, and earned his inheritance. Of course he disowned you. Can you blame him? Imagine working your entire life to build something, only for your own father to take it away and hand it over to someone else just because they threw a tantrum. Ethan is never coming back. And honestly, he shouldn't. I'm sorry, but you're the a-hole. Your wife gaslit you, plain and simple. She let her son play the victim for years and then pushed you into a corner where you had no choice but to give in. But let's be real here. You still had a choice. You chose Josh over Ethan. You chose to break your son's trust. And now your stepson is ruining everything. The irony. If Josh sells the business, Ethan could swoop in, buy it out, and run it properly. If I were you, I'd start looking for a way to undo the damage before Josh completely destroys everything you built. You let your wife's sob story manipulate you, and now you've lost the only person who ever truly had your back. What did you expect Ethan to do? Just accept that you threw him away? If you were my father, I'd cut you off too. You weren't being a good husband. You were being a spineless husband. A real partner would have told Laura, I love you, but this is not your decision to make. But instead, you folded. And for what? A son in name only who's now failing at a job he never deserved? You're the a-hole, and honestly, I think you know it.
I, 30 female, married my high school sweetheart, 30 male. We've been together for 13 years. When my husband, we'll call him Craig, was 25, he lost his mother to cancer. His father, we'll call him Mike, was mostly absent in his life. My husband has crippling anxiety, especially when it comes to his family. The process of his mother's cancer and subsequent death put a major strain on our relationship with the rest of his family, resulting in us losing connection with everyone but Mike. So this Christmas, Mike decided that a cruise, one that we didn't ask for, indicate in any way we wanted or consent to, would be the greatest gift ever. My husband tried to decline, but Mike insisted he would just be out the money if he doesn't take it. I also tried to decline, citing that we would have to apply and pay for passports, that I get motion sickness very easily, and that time off is difficult to manage at our jobs. I also outright told him the situation wasn't ideal, inquiring about if it was possible to get a refund or if there was an alternative. He said no, it was non-refundable, and reiterated that he would just be out $2,500 if we did not follow through with the planning. Okay, whatever. I guess I can deal for my husband's sake. Maybe it'll be fun. I confirmed they were purchased for us, then asked to see the tickets or a link so I could look at the options and get it scheduled. But Mike wanted us to just tell him what dates we wanted and trust him to schedule the whole trip. After he informed me there would be several other unavoidable out-of-pocket expenses for us, I wanted out of this situation. That was when I discovered that what he was offering us was a credit. It's something that you get that's either left over from a previous trip or compensation for your cruise being canceled due to something like virus. They are also non-transferable, so I confirmed that's what it was and informed him that we will not be able to use them since the original trip was purchased in his name for him. So, in other words, he lied about buying them for us and was forcing them onto us for literally no reason. After a few days, I texted Mike and told him we would appreciate being consulted before he buys us any large gifts, and that the situation caused Craig intense anxiety because he was made to feel like we couldn't decline. His exact response was to disown my husband. After informing my husband he had been abandoned over some simple boundaries, he was understandably devastated. But now we've come to the am I the a-hole. He believes I should have just let his father find out he couldn't gift them on his own. He also believes I shouldn't have stood up for him about the situation because he knew it would upset his father. I did swallow my pride and message him again to apologize and beg him not to cut off my husband. He saw it, then blocked me on all social media. So, am I the a-hole for trying to stand up to my father-in-law for my husband and myself? Or should I have just respected my husband's wishes and let his father get away with a stupid and unnecessary lie? Not the a-hole. To be honest, it sounds like the father was looking for an excuse. If it wasn't this, it would have been something else. He's trying to make it your fault and blame you so that he can get away scot-free. Not the a-hole. What did Mike expect you to do? Show up at the cruise and be turned away? I agree with others. He was looking for an excuse to disown. If he had been offering to only take Craig, my ruling would be different. But you were expected on this trip too. It wasn't Craig's alone. Now to Craig. He wanted to handle it differently. You may still owe Craig an apology for butting in, but ask him how he would have handled it on his own. Or in an ideal world, how would this have gone? His father doesn't listen to his wishes, OP. Please make sure you aren't making the same mistake. You're the a-hole. I understand your husband's point. It is literally the only family he has left, and it was up to him if this was something to take a stand on. You were speaking for your husband, so that's what makes you an a-hole. Your husband is also responsible for himself and can reach out to his dad on his own. If your dad wants to write you off and he can shift all the blame on you and apologize to his dad, he may still be able to have the relationship he wants. You don't have to like their relationship or even agree with him having one with his dad. But it is and should be up to him whether or not there is one. If he makes that attempt and his dad does not reciprocate at all, then I agree with another comment who said that his father was probably looking for an excuse. His gift was crappy, and he was an a-hole about it. I myself have been on cruises before, twice. Both times I was pressured into it, and it was not my choice of vacation style. Besides the work schedule juggling, the extra money needed on any free vacation, because no free vacation is ever free, and motion sickness, since virus, stranded at sea has a whole new category of worry. I agree with you and everything you said. It just wasn't your place to say it. So, I found out my 14-year-old daughter isn't my biological daughter, but my wife's affair partner's daughter. And to be honest, I always suspected this, and it wasn't out of nowhere, as I had my doubts prior to this. But never have I treated her differently compared to my biological children because of this. Never. So I immediately filed for divorce and decided to contemplate hard and deep about the role I want in her life. I was almost leaning for joint custody, where I get to see her once a week or something along those lines, and decided I will be paying child support, until she and my ex came to my house last month to discuss. And she said that she loves me so much, but I need to understand that I shouldn't expect to mean more to her than her biological father. So I lost it and was so furious and told them both to get the duck out and good luck getting a dime from her broke dad. I feel really crappy about it, and I know I was the a-hole for that, but this is not what I'm asking. Will I be the a-hole if I decided that I don't want to be a part of the child's life? And I don't live in the US, so no laws that require me to pay or anything. Edit 1. I think I made a huge mistake by not including this, but I'm worried she wants a relationship with me simply for the child support, and I will not tolerate that at all. Edit 2. Okay, now in the light of everything that has elapsed in the past few hours, I need to disclose a very important detail I left out on purpose. We have agreed with my ex and daughter to meet today to finally decide on what's to come. I want to read every response and perspective possible before taking such a huge step, so I'm going to summarize what happened. I started by telling her that I still love her, like the older days, and nothing changes that. But my strategy to make sure my existence in her life wasn't solely for my money was clearly disclosing that I will financially support her on my own accord, and to the extent I prefer. My ex freaked out and tried to guilt trip, but I was having none of that, so I shut her immediately. Now, here's when things started taking a turn. My daughter tells me that if that's the way I want it, seeing her a few times a month and being more like a close family friend than a parent, she respects my wishes and doesn't want to pressure me to raise someone who isn't his, but she can't take me completely cutting her out of my life emotionally. Now, what's to come is the part that makes me hate myself for underrating how kind and smart my daughter really is, and how vile my ex also is. I make it clear to her that if it was up to me, I would love for her to be always with me, but why I decided I can't be fully invested in her life is because I can't really stand her biological parents. And she suddenly starts sobbing and crying out of nowhere. Her mother is stunned, and I ask her what's wrong, and she tells me that her mother, before catching up and knowing that her bio dad is financially ruined, she was trying to convince her to leave me for good. And now she hates her mother and wants nothing to do with her mother anymore. And she is ready to give up any future relationships with her bio dad if that's what I want. And I told her yes, that was my only condition. And also, she explained that she told me those things because she thought I didn't want her anymore, and wanted to test the waters and see if I still wanted her to fully live with the family. Now, of course, my ex tried to take her and cut the conversation, and I stopped her, and now she has left while my daughter is still here. So yes, it's now more of a legal court thing more than anything else. Everyone sucks here. 14 is a hard age, and honestly, I'm willing to guess your wife talked that stuff into your daughter's head. That girl may not be physically related to you, but you raised her, and if you still love her, you should let her know that. To disown someone who you raised as your own child is really cold. So unless you really just don't give a crap about her, you should still be there for her, because I'm sure she has 4 more years of hell coming up with her mom and the affair partner. I said a lot of stuff I regretted at 14 years old. Lots of it was from peer pressure. You don't know the full story. Keep that in mind going forward. Not the a-hole. Yeah, I mean your wife lied to you and leeched off you for 14 years. Then your daughter told you that you don't mean as much to her as the biological father. Why would you want to be in their life at all? The personal insults were unwarranted on your side, but it's pretty minimal to what most people would have said in your position. Sounds like your daughter loves you very much, and she's struggling with the lies and manipulation of your ex. Please tell your daughter how much you love her and will always love her, and be her father. Try not to put restrictions on who she can and can't see regarding her bio parents. All of this was sprung on her, like on you, and she may need to contact her mom and bio dad to help process everything. Individual counseling for both you and your daughter is a must. Ask her who she wants to live with and offer to stay with you. Sounds like she would be happier with you. My mom and my wife typically get along fine. I think they might find each other a bit annoying, but she isn't one of those mother-in-laws you read about. We just don't see much of her as no one in the family is close. I have an aunt who hates my guts. She is mad because when she disowned her son, I gave him some money. This led to a huge fight where my aunt and wife said nasty things to each other. My mom didn't get involved, but at the end of the day, I do believe she loves her sister more than any of her children. My dad made it known that he was on my aunt's side, and as a result, my wife's relationship with him soured. Anyway, my mom offered to crochet my wife a bathing suit cover-up. The pattern required black and yellow for sunflowers, and then you could pick the base. My wife picked lavender. My mom came over the other day to give my wife the cover-up as a birthday gift. It was blue instead of purple. My mom said she hopes the blue is okay, but my aunt demanded the same cover-up in purple, but did not want to match with my wife because she hates you. I asked my mom what the duck was wrong with her to phrase it like that. My mom seemed confused and said it was true, and we had to know she hated us. My mom apologized and said she hopes she likes it, but at the end of the day, she's going to put her sister first. I lost it and told her she was being a bee to my wife, and she can't disrespect my wife in our home. I told her to get out. She looked shocked but left, and went crying to my dad, who left me a long voicemail cussing me out. Now, my entire family is furious because they feel she didn't do anything wrong, and it was a don't shoot the messenger situation. I've been called entitled for even implying she should prioritize my wife over her sister, which I don't think I did. And apparently my mom is pissed because my wife posted a picture wearing the cover-up, and it was entitled to wear it after kicking her out of the house. Not the a-hole. Your mother may have gotten your wife a gift, but the words that accompanied it showed her true colors. Furthermore, that was neither the time nor the place to address the issue. If she has problems with you or your wife, it was more polite to address them another time. Not the a-hole. Your mother wasn't being an innocent bystander. She was crap-stirring in her own right. She meant to cause trouble. To what end, I don't know, but standing up for your wife was the right call. If I had to guess, this sounds like a power play by your mother to let your wife know that she stands at the bottom of the family hierarchy. Not the a-hole. Why would your mom go out of her way to make it known that she didn't give your wife what she asked for because your aunt? It's likely you would never see her or the cover-up. She could have just lied and said she didn't find any lavender yarn or something. Seems like a pretty intentional twist of the knife. Quick background. My son, 23, graduated college and majored in BA Theater Arts, and since graduation, he's mostly been earning by acting in a few small productions. Although he's had major roles in some of his plays, we live in a country where theater isn't paid really well. He still lives with me, 62, and my wife, 57. We pay for everything: food, phone, gas, etc. Give him an allowance, and don't make him pay rent. This isn't a problem since we are very financially well off, and most of the things we have we plan to let our kids inherit. Anyways, a few days ago me and my son had a talk, and he mentioned how the pay for his next gig was so low. I jokingly mentioned that he should just take over the family business if he wants to earn money. This led to him snapping and saying I wasn't supportive of him. After he mentioned this, my head just exploded, and we had a long argument. I mean, I pay for everything, and even go to his place to support him. In the end, I threatened him by saying if he doesn't make it big in a year, he either learns the family business or I disown him. We haven't talked in a few days since then. My wife says I was too harsh and that he's still young. My younger daughter, 20, hasn't been vocal about the matter, but she's been trying to make me and my son reconcile. I'm not against my son's dream of becoming an actor, but I want him to have a stable future at least. I mean, what's he going to do if me and my wife die? He doesn't even know how to operate our business or the problems some of our properties have. What he earns isn't even enough to pay the expenses of the house. So am I the a-hole for threatening to disown my son? Edit. When I said disown, I meant kicking him out of the house and removing all financial support. Also his car since I paid for it. Jesus, I won't remove him from the will. He's still my son. Yes, the a-hole. Only because there are better ways to have a discussion like this than threats. Why not talk to him about your concerns for his lifestyle after you and your wife are gone, as it sounds like this is a reality he hasn't even really considered. I also suggest making him take on some more responsibility for himself. He doesn't need an allowance as a working adult. You're the a-hole. Seriously, he's 23 and already had some major roles in plays? That is making it big for someone his age. What the duck kind of standards are those? He's clearly talented and passionate and doing very well considering. It sounds like you have always been bitter about your son having no interest in the family business. Demeaning his accomplishments in a very difficult field will not make him interested in whatever your business is, nor will the threat of disowning him. What a horrible thing to say. A father-son relationship should be based on love and not quantified by an arbitrary dollar salary. Take a breath and step back and realize everything is fine. Not the a-hole. Your son is an actor. Nothing is guaranteed with that job. You cannot plan your career unless you display an exceptional talent. Theater is supposed to be harder and more draining. He might not want to act anymore in 5 years. Don't listen to people. Your son was the a-hole for saying you didn't support him enough.